We called you guys here today to kind of give an update on a very difficult day. Sunday, February 28th, we had 3 homicides in 6 hours in Kansas City, Missouri. And we know that Sunday mornings are kind of difficult for coverage, so we just wanted to follow up with you guys today, let you know where we are on those cases, in order to be as transparent as possible, as well as protect the investigation and not get into specifics on an open investigation. We did have 3 homicides yesterday, 3 separate scenes. None of them were connected. None of them were related in any way. As of this morning, we are at 23 homicides for 2021. At this time last year, we were at 26 homicides. So those are some of the background of why we're talking today. Obviously, 3 homicides in one day is noteworthy and tragic for our city. Of these 3 homicides, again, I cannot be specific about which one of these is related to which, but we had 3 very distinct situations. They are 3 situations that we see over and over around the country and that we have seen historically in Kansas City. One of these homicides was related, we believe, has a nexus to narcotics activity. One of these homicides, we believe, is related to and has a nexus to mental health issues. And one of these homicides is related to and has a nexus of domestic violence. And each one of those 3 things has entire professions dedicated just to investigate or help people with those issues: narcotics, social services for to get out of domestic violence situations. The police, all of that comes to the police, and we investigate all of those things. And we task our officers, detectives, support staff with being knowledgeable and able to solve all of these issues. And although yesterday was tragic, we do think that it highlights some of the challenges that we're seeing in our city. With all of that said, the police department, policing as a profession, is one part of the criminal justice system. Our part of that system is basically limited to the time somebody calls 911 and the time we present a case file to the prosecutors. We don't put people in jail. We don't prosecute cases. We don't take people that are on probation and parole and revoke or send them back to jail. We don't keep people in jail. Those are Department of Corrections, probation and parole, prosecutors, judges, defense attorneys. All of those things are part of the criminal justice system. We do not create the laws. We take the laws that are presented to us and try to do the law enforcement aspect of that. We are one part. At this point, I am not ready to give an update on the victims' names. We think that we have the victims identified in all of these cases. However, we also have to do next of kin, and we also have to get clarification on some of these. So due to the volume and the amount of resources we have available to facilitate that, I am not ready to do that at this time. I think you guys have covered these enough to know generally by the next day we're able to release a victim's name, and just due to the volume that we have, we're not able to do it at this time. So with that, I will open up to questions.
So Dave, if somebody's in a domestic violence situation or a mental health situation or something and they don't know who to call, if they do call 911 and say, I'm in a dangerous situation or I'm worried or anything like that, do you guys have the resources to help them from there?
Great question. Thank you. Yes, we do. We do have the ability to kind of outsource some of this, and I don't want to use the exact names of who we partner with, but we do partner with domestic violence shelters. We partner with specific advocacy groups for that. Most definitely, when you call 911 and you're in a domestic violence situation, we can facilitate that. What we would like to do is not wait until, or what we would like to reach out to victims or people that are in a precarious situation right now is don't wait until you need to call 911. It is not going to get better. Get out while you are safe and start reaching out to these groups. If you call any of our division stations, if you called 911 and said, I need to know the phone number, do that. We can facilitate it multiple different ways. We have some on our website. Any of that. We want you to get out today before it gets to something that is so dangerous that you feel like you need to call 911 and have a police officer there right now.
Can you tell me about your lethality screening?
So what we have is a lethality assessment report, and what we do when we are on the scene of a domestic violence situation, we ask a series of questions. We ask the victim. We try to facilitate this in a safe environment where they're not under duress. A series of questions. How long, basically, in a nutshell, how long has this been going on? What's the level of violence? What's the level of control? Are there firearms? Is the suspect of this? Do they control you in these certain ways? And what we've been able to do is create, I say we, with our partners have been able to create a lethality assessment of here is what's been going on in this relationship, and based on our experience, this is your level of danger, and we want to get you out of that situation.
Was in the domestic violence situation that was over the weekend, was that something, had you been involved with those people before? Do you know?
I do not believe we were involved in this. It was a little bit different aspect than an ongoing. It had, like I said, a domestic violence nexus, but not maybe in the traditional sense that of a person in a relationship.
Okay, so, and you said that the people that are experiencing domestic violence can call 911. What about somebody's having a mental break or something like that? Do you have also for
Again,
that type of deal?
Yep. So we have an entire unit called the Crisis Intervention Team Unit. Several of our officers are also crisis intervention team trained to be a little bit more proactive than we were, say, 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It was a program that we've kind of implemented over 15 years. It's really gotten a lot stronger over the last few years, where we are sending more of our officers to recognize mental health issues on a call, kind of recognize the types of medication that you might see that would be an indication that somebody is having a mental health background, and then facilitate the appropriate resources to get them help, whether that's through their caseworker, new medications, whatever that might be, to kind of help them work through some of these situations. In
any of these situations, if somebody had called earlier and you were able to intervene earlier, could it have stopped any of these situations, do you believe?
I think that's definitely right. I think that what we need is when these underlying issues come to a level of conflict, what we see over and over in all of these investigations have one thing in common, for the most part, and that is really poor conflict resolution skills. Whether that's for whatever reason, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's mental health, whether you're involved in illegal activity and you just don't see a way that you can get any help because you're involved in illegal activity. What ends up happening is it gets to a boiling point, and then there's a conflict or an argument, and a point where this comes together, and then some people have chosen to use physical force and violence to solve that conflict. And that's what we see over and over, is people who are choosing to solve these problems with physical violence, whether it's firearms, knives, fists, bats. We've seen just about all of them, but it is a ongoing lack of conflict resolution. The police department, we would love to partner or be a part of all of that, but it's not really, we are not the best advocates for conflict resolution skills. There are not-for-profit groups and things out there, social agencies, counseling agencies that are out there that do this for a living, that are professionals. I would encourage anybody to get in touch with some of these agencies.
But if someone's in a situation like that, they're not necessarily having the time or the wherewithal to get on their phone and find the right agency and do their research, so they can call 911.
And that's what we see.
Yeah.
And so, whereas we try to do our best, we are one part of this. And so what happens is people have these complex mental health issues. We are happy to try to assist them, but we are not mental health professionals. People have substance abuse issues. We can put them in touch with the right people, but we are not substance abuse counselors. People are in domestic violence situations, and we can facilitate getting you in touch with some of our social services, for example, through our social workers. We can help facilitate some of that, but we are not domestic violence counselors. We are literally on to the next call. That's our portion of this. We have kind of become the clearinghouse for all of these things that we're willing to do. It's just difficult for us to do all of them well.
Right, but this police department is a safe place to come or call and say, I'm having a problem, and you guys can help these people get in touch with people that
Most
can't.
definitely.
Right, okay.
Most definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Sure.
But, I detect a level of frustration, almost, maybe in personal accountability for people. Is it?
Look, I would stay away from frustration. We are paid professionals. We are professionals. We do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't really ever feel frustrated. I want what's best for the folks that are involved in this. And if we can maybe communicate to them some better avenues to get better results and be more effective and efficient with services, I think maybe that's a better way of explaining what's going on here. We want what's best. I can tell you that the police department wants what's best for the citizens of this city. Shooting people is not it. It is, to your point, the most efficient way to get services is to call 911 and have a cop show up. I think that what we're saying is, historically speaking, it's not the most effective and efficient way to getting services to people, the services that they need. And that's what we're trying to maybe educate people or assist people in getting those services there. So I hope I'm not frustrated, and I appreciate the question. I just want to advocate for the citizens to get them involved in things that can be helpful for them.
When I look at I think you said last year we were at 26 homicides, this year at 23. They're trending along the same way. Last year was a record. This year seems to be going the same way. So something has to change.
So I think that's right. And like I said, we are one part of that, and I think that we want to be part of that conversation. I just don't think that we have the bandwidth to solve this problem. This problem is nationwide, as you guys know. You guys report on this. You know where the shootings and the homicides are nationwide. I don't think it's particularly complex. Don't use physical violence to solve your argument. It doesn't. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. I kind of get that, but we're not doing it in Kansas City and throughout the country.
So how can the police department become more proactive than reactive? Because when you're called to 3 homicides in one day, that's reactive to the crime, right?
I think you're totally right, and I think that being proactive is becoming more and more difficult. We're being stretched thinner and thinner. Much documentation has been made about where our numbers are, where they were a few years ago, the direction that they're heading. It's really not a matter of people or personalities. It's a matter of math, right? As people leave and they're not replaced, our bandwidth to be proactive becomes less and less. They're answering calls for service. They're investigating increased amount of crimes. So the detectives, usually by this time, you guys cover this, usually by this time I'd be able to tell you the victim's name in all three of these. They are stretched thin. And that's the reality of the situation. We would love to be more proactive. We do, obviously, these things, and we've identified some of these issues. I just don't know if the police department is the right ones to administer some of the follow-up.
Are any of these agencies going through tough times, so much so that when you contact them to try and help someone, they say we can't right now? Or?
I suspect you're right, yeah. Being able to do home visits, being able to get out. I think that we've all recognized that a lot of our work can be done on Zoom calls, but it is certainly not the same as engaging with somebody that's going through a mental health crisis or a domestic violence relationship. You've really got to get out there and be in person with them. And I think that to some degree that's right, but in a COVID isn't stopping people from hurting each other. So I would make that point as well. Anything else? Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. Oh, can I say one more thing? Can we get one more thing? You guys all ready? Just one other thing that I wanted to point out of the 3 cases yesterday. In one case, we are getting very little cooperation from from the people that were there. And in that case, we have not identified any person of interest. In 2 of the cases from yesterday, we did have levels of engagement from people that were there or people that were able to be helpful. And in both of those cases, we do have somebody identified, a person identified at least. So I would encourage us as we conduct these investigations, albeit after the fact, that the level of cooperation continues to be one aspect of getting people in custody that need to be in custody.
Which is the one that you don't have cooperation with?
I don't want to get into any of the specifics about any one of the cases.
Have there been any arrests in any of these cases?
I don't want to get into specifics on any of the cases. No charges have been filed in any cases.
More cooperation? I mean, obviously, in this instance, maybe it's
I think that we do. I think that we have a lot more cooperation with people than people really know, and that people really think from the outside, especially. I think we do get levels of cooperation. I just wanted to highlight it is just. Since it happened yesterday, it's noteworthy, and that's what we're talking about. I do think it kind of demonstrates what we see throughout most of our cases. Thank you, guys.